Hari Om. Andariki Namaskaram. I am a practicing Hindu who is very proud of her culture, her traditions, her civilizational ethos. Kani, I think due to globalization and Western education, this current generation is losing touch with its roots. As an actor, I want to use my outreach in the positive direction. And social media today is one of the strongest democratic platforms that we have. And I don't understand what harm it is as an actress if I'm voicing my opinions on social media about my dharma, about my Hinduism, about just making sure that the next generation is educated about our values, about our history and culture. Today we're at the Digital Hindu Conclave in Hyderabad, organized by Bharat Niti, and I'm really excited to share the stage with members of parliament, bureaucrats, those from the armed forces that I really respect. Coming to Hyderabad, Hyderabad was in the news recently because of the GHMC elections and its results, which came as a surprise to many. So a lot of leaders were saying, why is, we shouldn't be naming flyovers and stadiums and airports after politicians. We shouldn't change the name of our city, Ani. But it's quite ironic, right, that I landed in the Rajiv Gandhi International Airport and I took the Nehru Outer Ring Road to come here. And it's also very sad that Vishveshwaraya ji is one person who is really instrumental in all these big infrastructural projects in India, but very few projects are named after Vishveshwaraya ji, like this auditorium, which is the Vishveshwaraya ji Auditorium. So today I've been asked to speak about the plight of Bharatiyas and how there is an inherent sense of bias against the conservative right wing in India, specifically Hindus. Today I'm not here as an actress or a social activist, but just as someone who wants to voice out some things I've seen about other actors. I think they just sway where the wind goes. They don't stick to an opinion. Or if they have an opinion, sticking by it is really important. I see that most actors just go where the wind flows, what makes it, what is beneficial for them. And this is one thing that I really condemn. Now, it's really important to understand the origin of this problem. Since 2002, there has been one person who has been constantly bullied, subjugated, and criticized by media, whether it's Indian or foreign. You all know the name, so I don't have to really elaborate. A few years down the line, yes. A few years down the line, this man oversees an economic resurgence of his home state and runs his bid to become the Prime Minister of the world's largest democracy. Now, by this timeline, he has been cleared by the Indian courts of whatever he's been accused of. He runs for elections, wins a clear mandate that the people have entrusted in him, and yet the Time magazine in 2016 mentions Modi as one of the most influential people in the world, with President Obama writing a glorifying essay on the Prime Minister, calling him a person who has uplifted millions from poverty, with a keen sense of market-driven economics where foreign investments are being welcomed. But 3 years later, in 2019, the very same magazine published an article calling him the divider-in-chief, where the following words were written by a prominent journalist, that Modi is a friend of the mob. He actively promotes poisonous religious nationalism and will put India's democracy in danger. I've seen that you have a similar pattern being followed by some of the most well-known media establishments in America, whether it's the New York Times, Washington Post, Financial Times, you name it. And in the same year, one more person from the subcontinent made it to the most influential. That's Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, a country where Hindus, Christians, Sikhs, and even Muslims, Ahmadiyas and Shias are being persecuted on a daily basis, is supposed to be a darling of the international press. This just goes to show how the left liberal ecosystem currently works in tandem across the world. There are few ways of countering the bias that predominantly exists today on digital platforms and in the media. Firstly, I think that there is a need for indigenous platforms that are based on the cultural ethos of the country. How can somebody who's sitting in New York or in Washington have a grasp on our Indian culture, and how can they view it how us Bharatiyas view our Hinduism? Most of the Indic departments that I have seen that are based abroad, they portray Hinduism as if it's all about caste, about discrimination, and about how it is that we are a majoritarian people who are imposing our will on the minorities, but statistics show otherwise. There's been a constant rise in the population of our minorities since the time of independence, and the average Hindu growth rate has drastically declined. Having platforms that actually interpret what discourse is being laid out by the people of India can only emanate if it is based out of India. Or at least they should appoint some experts from India who know the subject well. Also, I think we're bad as of now at building counter narratives. I'm being a little critical right now, but if you see how the British has the Guardian and the BBC, how the Americans use CNN, we have just one news channel which is now rising towards predominance with an international voice. Communications theory dictates that to be able to send a message across to the audience, there should be a feedback loop where the audience is able to express their views on the content and subject. But unfortunately, of late, you've all seen how anyone on social media who is voicing out nationalist opinions or conservative opinions, they're often being shadow banned, bullied, repressed, or even their accounts being banned. This is a very bad development for a country that is acknowledged as the world's biggest democracy. Third, I think we need to encourage rational voices who can represent what we stand for, like how Swami Vivekananda and other stalwarts who used to travel to various parts of the country and explain. And today we have social media, how easy it has become for all of us to voice our opinions and to spread the message of Dharma. Fourth, I think we need to understand that any digital platform functions on a revenue model that is largely dependent on advertisements. PR has become like a part-time hobby for celebrities. They just bounce from ideology to ideology at their convenience, and they're mostly non-committal about what they stand for. So I think this is where I say that as audience, we need to be very careful about who we choose to follow and whose opinions matter to us. And I think psychologically speaking, usually a person is drawn towards something that he or she is relatively unaware by the way they're introduced to it. Like in 2014, the agenda was development, which resulted in the public being convinced that Mr. Modi had something that he promised to concretely deliver. The objective of being compulsive contrarians may result in shadowing someone in bad light, but that won't really gain goodwill for us. Sixth is to engage. One-sided discourse has and will never help anyone reach the cause they're fighting for. Abandonment of social media is not like a non-cooperation movement that we had in history in India. We need to engage with people. They may abuse us, they may criticize us, they may be impartial to us, but the only way that someone can get convinced is if you're having constant engagement on social media, and that's the only way we can really convince people. Remember Hyderabad, this is the same city that saw nationalist organizations like the RSS, the Hindu Mahasabha, and the Congress that fought for liberation from the Nizams. For a very long time, this land has endured centuries of oppression, torture, loot, and insult. Just a few years prior to independence, Telugu as a language itself was being given secondary treatment. Peasants were being taxed left, right, and center, and Hindus were being blamed for not being tolerant enough. Even in recent times, intelligence officers are being murdered in broad daylight. Hindus are being killed for saving cattle and from preventing it from being smuggled and later slaughtered. Sadly, there seems to be a repetitive pattern emerging from time to time. At a time of desperate need, our leaders had a single goal, the liberation of Hyderabad from the clutches of a tyrannical rule. And that has been achieved. Today, the people of Telangana have stood up and fought. They've built airports, roads, ports, and they've been able to create Hyderabad as one of the leading IT cities. That said, even when I post something on social media and get abuses, I see a lot of comments, especially from Hyderabad, that really support, and that is what keeps me going. So all I want to say in this digital conclave is, I think we should all stand united, and I'm sure that no trolls can really bog us down. So Jai Hind, Bharat Mata ki Jai.
Thanks for watching Nationalist Hub. తెలుగు మీడియా చూపించని మరిన్ని వాస్తవ కథనాలు వార్తలను మిస్ కాకుండా ఉండేందుకు మా ఛానల్ను సబ్స్క్రైబ్ చేసుకోవడం మర్చిపోకండి. ఎప్పటికప్పుడు మా వీడియోస్ నోటిఫికేషన్స్ను పొందేందుకు పక్కనే ఉన్న బెల్ ఐకాన్ను క్లిక్ చేయండి. మీ అమూల్యమైన సలహాలను కామెంట్స్ రూపంలో తెలుపుతూ వీడియోను లైక్ చేయండి, 10 మందికి షేర్ చేయండి. జై హింద్.